So inside, we see this box, which could have been used as a tomb. And again, it has strange scorching on the interior. We couldn't really figure out what kind of stone it was. Interior space is about 9 feet long. It would weigh in the region of 60 to 80 tons. And it could be basalt or possibly syenite, which is a type of granite, which again could not have been shaped efficiently during dynastic times. And this shows you that originally the lid of the box would have locked into it. So not just a lid that went on top, but three-dimensionally locked into it. And that's just one of the curious little aspects that I was looking at in this case. Then also at Saqqara, we have the step pyramid of Zoser. And most Egyptologists think that this was one of the earliest attempts of constructing a pyramid, and that later on, once they had perfected their technique, they built the Great Pyramid. But I and others believe that actually the Great Pyramid existed, as did some of the others, and this was a way of the dynastic people trying to copy, without having the technological capability of replicating the Great Pyramid itself. They had to build it in a step manner. And next, we're still at Saqqara, and we are underground at the Serapeum, which is a series of 2 tunnels carved into the bedrock. And what we find here, and hundreds of feet long. One curious thing is there is no soot or other kind of organic darkened material on the surface. So these tunnels were completely pitch black, and there's no way that the dynastic Egyptians made it, because they had at best torches of some kind. No one's bothered to try to clean the surfaces, so this is what these tunnels have always looked like. So the impression is that they were made using high technology, and that artificial lighting would have to have been done in order to make them. And what we find inside of these tunnels are 25 plus stone boxes weighing 100 tons apiece. So this is one of the Serapeum boxes, and the material is syenite that probably came from Aswan, 500 miles away. The lid is 30 tons, the box is 70 tons. And the sculpting or carving of the hieroglyphics on the surface is much cruder than the box itself. So these boxes were found by the dynastic people, and then they etched the hieroglyphics into the surfaces. This just shows you, again, the sense of precision. The lid would hermetically seal the box. The lid of the box was made from the same piece of stone as the box itself. So originally it would have been 200 tons, and then when completed, 100 tons. So how was it moved from Aswan? How was it moved to the location? How was it moved into the tunnel? And then how was it moved into the recess that we presently find it in? So once again, this just gives you a sense of scale. There's a standard 6-foot human next to one of these giant boxes. One was never finished, and it's in the other hallway. So this is the roughened shape halfway down the hall. It never made it to its final location, which was a niche. And then we find the lid behind it about 100 feet away. So this is like trapped in time. Why did they stop work here? We see evidence in many locations of a megalithic nature where work suddenly stops. And so I think that all of this sudden stoppage was as a result of an ancient cataclysmic event about 12,000 years ago. So there's the lid, roughened out, never finished, and by the time the box and the lid make it into the niche, how were they planning on doing the finishing work to make it a hermetical perfect seal without having proper lighting and without having advanced technology? Then we are at Tanis, which is located in northern Egypt. What you can obviously see is that this granite lid was recycled, because you see partial hieroglyphs and then they abruptly end. And then the box itself is made of quartzite. So this is a recycling effort during dynastic times of pre-dynastic workmanship. So Tanis is basically devoid of life. If you look in the background, you see beautiful farmland of the Nile Delta, but almost nothing can grow at Tanis. And as you walk on the surface, it's like walking on the moon. It's like walking on flour. So I think this again was a place that was struck by an ancient cataclysm involving heat, quite possibly plasma ejection from the sun, and it basically decimated the site. It would have vaporized any life forms, and there are a handful of thorny plants that presently live there, and nothing else. It's like a wasteland. Also, the hieroglyphics on the left looked like they were done with a machine, whereas the ones on the right looked like they were done by hand. So the hieroglyphics on the left are pre-dynastic, the ones on the right are dynastic, and that gives us the strong possibility that hieroglyphics were not created by the dynastic people, but were an inheritance, and they were reinterpreted by the dynastic people. Same symbols, different symbolism. This piece of quartzite was struck by intense heat because it should be a cream color, but you can see some of the surfaces are melted. So that tells us, again, high heat at Tanis. And then the right side of this face is burnt off. Again, this is quartzite. So this is a pre-dynastic sculpture that was struck by the cataclysmic heat and was found, as most of Tanis was found, the sculptures and what was left of the obelisk were found buried underground. Not buried on purpose, but a cataclysmic event that caused the soil to blow up into the air, come back down and settle, tons upon tons of it, and then cover the site over, to be discovered by the dynastic people and then occupied. And then most of these works were then unearthed in the 19th and 20th century AD. This is just a detail again of the burnt surfaces of this sculpture, with pieces literally being blown off by the intense heat. And another stone that should be creamy colored, like on the left side, but has been distorted, and also some of the material or surfaces turned into glass. This is a foot. The original sculpture, if it was one piece, would have been 100 feet high. And the quarry at Aswan is 1,000 kilometers to the south. And this was the lid of a giant granite box, again made of the granite from Aswan. This sculpture was blown apart by intense heat, and if you look down where the toes should be, the toes are melted off. And this is a close-up of that. You see the globular glass-like formations. So that was melted by at least 2,000 degrees Celsius. And another sculpture that has been hit by intense heat, darkening the surface, causing melting, causing portions to blow off. Nothing at Tanis is intact. It's all destroyed. Giant sections of obelisks. There were more obelisks at Tanis than anywhere else in Egypt, probably at least 14 or 15, smashed into pieces. Again, you see eroded surfaces. This column would have been one piece originally, more than 30 feet long. And then the dynastic people, finding the remnants of a lost ancient high-tech culture, decided to rebuild some sections. That's what you see here. They took the eroded stones and were able to restack them and then do quite crude repair work in the middle of the right-hand side of that wall. And then there are underground features that we're going to explore on the Giza Plateau. only recently opened to the public with the Great Pyramid in behind. This is called the Osiris Shaft, and it's a series of shafts that go down 200 feet into the bedrock. The general public has only been allowed in here since November of 2017, and we paid the fee so that we could have private access for 2 hours. And again, there's the second pyramid. So this is the causeway going to the second pyramid, and the entrance is underneath the causeway. So as we go in, we're in the bedrock, and you look up and you see a metal grate. And as you look down, you're looking to the first level, which is 30 feet underground. And this is the ladder, luckily the new fangled ladder, because the old one was very rickety. So when you get to the first level, it's about 15 feet wide and 30 feet long. And then you come to the ladder that takes you down to level number 2. And level number 2 is 100 feet down into the bedrock. So now we are 130 feet excuse me, underground. And there we find 6 niches in which we find 2 boxes. This stone box is made of what's called dacite, and dacite is not found in Egypt. It's from elsewhere. Likely maybe Turkey or somewhere else, but not in Egypt. So it was moved a huge distance. And the interior is filled, surface film, of this odd black goo, organic-like material. I don't know what it was, but it looks like it literally exploded from the inside, that there was an internal explosion that blew the lid off to the side. And even more so is this one, which is the other box, and you can see the massive crack on the side. So I think this suffered from some kind of internal explosion. So the theory is that this was not originally a sarcophagus, but it was an energy device of some kind that overloaded and it had an internal explosion. So the final level is another 60 feet underground, and there you can see a pool of water. And in that there is Yusuf Awiyan standing on a giant stone box weighing, in his estimation, 60 to 80 tons. So when we go back the next time, we're going to measure the dimensions of the box and then measure the dimensions of the shaft and see how much clearance there would have been in order to be able to lower this down 30 feet, then 100 feet, and then 60 feet. And what its function was, again, it was not the symbolic tomb of Osiris. The question is not necessarily what was it used for, but how was it made, and by whom? So there is going back up to the surface, and now we're in the Valley Temple, which is located in the region of the Sphinx on the Giza Plateau. Giant slabs of granite from Aswan. And here again, giant slabs that used to be the facing of a core of limestone. But again, look at the extent of the erosion of the limestone. So how many thousands of years ago was the granite removed? And was it removed by somebody to recycle? Or was it blown off by some kind of cataclysmic event? Then we're inside the Valley Temple. And you see these giant vertical granite slabs. There used to be cross beams going across it. Look at the weathering of the surfaces. This actually looks like water weathering. And so that means that this temple may have, in ancient times, had water in it, but the question is, where would the water have come from? But we will get into that when we look at the Sphinx. So now we're approaching the Sphinx with the second pyramid in the background. Notice that I call them the first pyramid, second pyramid, and third pyramid, because I think they had nothing to do with Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. They named themselves, or they named the structures after themselves, but there is no way, shape, or form that they made them.